Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani. I have with me again in the studio our friend Omagbitse Barrow. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Father.
Good. We are here today to discuss about this problem. Nigeria today is a problem. I mean, from north to south, east to west, we are hearing drums of war are being beaten.
Yeah.
Recently, we heard that somebody declared Oduduwa Republic. Somebody came out a few days after and declared New Biafra and announced himself as the head of government. We have been having all kinds of groups making inflammatory statements that can set the country on flames. Now, the challenge of national integration. We have had this challenge since independence. It is the same kind of problems that led to the 1966-67 coups. Now, how many years after? 60 years after, we are still having this problem. And now, the drums of war are sounding louder. And the fault lines of our country are so many. Nigeria appears to be bleeding from every part of the body. Nigeria as an organism appears to be bleeding from every part, from the eyes, from the nose, from the mouth, from hemorrhaging from everywhere. We say, do we still have a country? Is this country salvable? Can we salvage our homeland, our motherland? If we can, how? And then, what are the obstacles? Or who are the people against having a formidable integrated country? What are the forces against us in building a country? I know the kind of things you have been doing, the various groups you belong have been doing. We at Terra here have been doing a lot, but there appear to be forces tearing the country apart as some of us are trying to build the country. How do we go forward?
It's a very important thing to try to pay attention to. And like you said, through different groups and organizations, we have pondered and reflected on it. I think that the problems have to do with, first of all, how we think. So I think there's an orientation.
Our thinking process.
Yes, I think there's an orientation problem from the beginning, the way we think, the way we have been socialized, and how we haven't, how will I put it, how we have, some things have degenerated over time. So you reference the 1960s, the first military coup in Nigeria, the civil war that followed after. What were some of the problems at that time? What have we done to address some of those things? So let's say, for example, we've invested in a program of national youth service, okay? Where you said, let us try to deliberately bring people together. And through that interaction,
get to know one another, get to understand one another,
and so on and so forth. We set up federal government colleges, the unity school system, of which I am a beneficiary. You know, we even had things like, what they call it, quota system. So that, and this is a very important issue, that, for example, you say education is a fundamental right of people. Yes. So let us make quality education available to everybody, regardless of whatever disadvantage you may have. So you have a quota system, and sometimes people argue about this. I say it's okay, there's nothing wrong that somebody from an educationally less developed state gets to go to King's College or to Queen's College or to Federal Government College, Shagamu, interact with other people from different parts of the country who have scored higher marks in the common entrance exam. But here's where the problem is, Father. You then continue with the quota up to getting a job.
Yes.
Up to getting promoted.
It's an abuse.
It's an abuse.
It's an abuse of the concept of federal character.
Exactly.
An abuse of quota system.
In fact, it's what we call constitutionalized mediocrity.
Yes. Abuse of the affirmation. What do you call it?
Exactly. Yeah. So what you should do is that such programs should last for a while. So what has happened to the people who went to federal government colleges on quota system from the 1970s? What has happened to them? They have been better educated. They have prospered. They have gotten better jobs. So what has happened? So this is why I said at the beginning that it's almost like there's a decay. So there's a decay in education.
Yes.
So the very educational system that you said federal government colleges, but that system has now been brought down.
I mean, talking about
the quality of that system.
Talking about, let's say, quota.
Yes.
You use quota system to take people into federal government colleges.
Yes.
Now, from that place, you should use standards.
So,
now, if it means that people will spend 2 years in Form 1, so that they get onto that level and move to Form 2, you do that. Instead, you are using lower marks to promote people.
Then you go to university, you apply the
you
same
use
quota.
Lower marks to admit people.
Then you go to job and you do the same
What
thing.
happens is that all standards are brought low.
And that's the point. That even in states that used to be called educationally more developed, the standards have dropped.
Gone down.
In Lagos, in Delta State where I'm from, the standards have gone down. So education is one of those fundamental issues. And I use that example because it has to do with building the human mind. That the quality of the human mind and the human being in Nigeria has been so decimated. I remember it was Bill Gates who came to Nigeria and said, we have a problem with building hard infrastructure, but we have not paid attention to the soft infrastructure, the human being. So the quality of the Nigerian human being is where the problem is. The human being, for example, who will be so who will be so cynical about their own rights and responsibilities and will not go and vote, for example. So the human being that will allow the wrong set of people to continue to pillage the society. You know, I remember watching a video where Sheikh Lemu said, look, that past performance must be an indicator of the future. That if the same set of people have been running the political system and taking us back. So I'm trying to answer your question. What are some of the real problems? This is where it is. And the same people go and keep allowing such people to continue to hold political power. Then doesn't it tell you something about the failed quality of the human being?
So we are back to the declaration of Albert Einstein, who said that you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created the problem.
Yes. And we have had no real efforts in the recent past
to interrogate these matters.
For example, so I mentioned NYSC, I mentioned federal government colleges. Even in the despotic years of the Babangida regime, there were things like MAMSA and all of these things that were attempting, for one reason or the other, to try to get Nigerians to get together on a grand national scale. But in the last 20 years, has there been any such effort?
I think the lack of integrity of people who have run this country.
Exactly.
The lack of integrity robbed some of the best programs of the kind of outcome that they should have.
That is it. That's my point. That's the point. So you have these programs, they are valuable, but because of the people, the people, and when I say the people, all of us, they are people work in these institutions. People have to interpret government policy, and they choose to do it the wrong way. People are the ones who foster and fester nepotism in our society. Even when instructions are given from above, you can object conscientiously if you want to. People have resigned and left their jobs.
Talking about NYSC and federal government colleges, and the orientation, the kind of reasoning that went into founding them, one of the failures is that, have these programs ever been evaluated? I mean, have we, like, you start NYSC in 1973.
Yes.
Did we take time after 20 years to say, stop for 1 year and let us spend 1 year in evaluating the last 20 years graduates that went to the program?
Exactly.
Nothing like that.
Did we actually set real targets in behavioral change that we wanted to see? And like you said, similar to the issue of quota system, you should stop after a while and say, okay, having done
what
this
did
quota,
we achieve?
What did we achieve, so that we can go back and see whether we should continue.
And if what you now see is a lowering of standards,
then you now you intervene again and you get to the root cause.
Talking about the quota system, I do hear about people who have spent 30 years in government and are stars in their job. They are doing very well, but then they cannot become director because there's another director from their state.
Exactly.
What are you
That's
talking
quite
about?
standard. That's the point.
Because there's somebody else who is a staff from my state.
Exactly.
I cannot become a director. You go and take a mediocre from somewhere else to come and be my boss.
Yeah. So this concept, I'll give you another thing that is at the heart of the problem. So, Father, many people are talking as part of these agitations about police systems, security systems, and so on. Well, and we say, let's borrow what happens in America, where you've got state police and municipal police. The problem is, how do we define state of origin in Nigeria? Because it's a fundamental issue. If state of origin is still defined
as my
ancestral home, then that's a problem. Because in America that we often reference, state of origin is where you lived for 6 months and paid tax.
Yes. 6
months and paid tax. That's all. That's your state of origin. So these are important because for those who are agitating, yes, we need to have this. Some of us are worried. So there are many things about the way we've organized our society.
Disorganized, not organized.
Yes,
the
how
way we have
disorganized
our
and
society.
how we have messed up the way we think about each other, that we need to address those issues.
So, citizenship.
Yes.
And the so-called indigenship.
Yes.
Or settlers.
Yes.
It needs to be seriously interrogated.
It certainly does.
That why would my citizenship be linked to my ancestral land,
yes.
actual land, ancestral
yes.
land?
Yes.
Whereas my father, my grandfather have been living here, contributing to the economy and development of this place,
employed people,
helped to build this land,
exactly.
and I'm still not considered a citizen of this place.
Exactly.
Something is seriously wrong.
Something is wrong. So those are the issues.
And if we have to have a country where we are not resentful of one another and bitter over, then this needs to be solved.
This needs to be solved. So this is another big issue. The concept.
Who is a citizen?
Who is a citizen? Yeah.
I mean, how can I be a citizen of Nigeria and not a citizen of the place where I have been for 40 years?
I mean, for example, you know that I was a candidate for the House of Representatives here, election in 2019. And I remember many people saying to me, oh, you could do that because you are in Abuja. And Abuja is no man's land. And I said, no. Actually, this constitution that all of us are crying about that we want to take apart, the constitution actually says that for you to be a member of the House of Reps, you shall be 30 years old, you shall be a citizen of Nigeria, you shall have a senior school certificate. That's all. It doesn't say you should be from that state of origin. And there's actually nothing that says so. So where do we get these things from? So you hear politicians saying, oh, there's no need to worry because you can't win in another state. Well, you can't win because the people think that you can't win. But there's actually nothing that says so. So
that is why somebody like Femi Falana, he believes that the problem is not our document.
Yes.
He thinks the problem with Nigerians.
Which is part of what I'm saying.
Femi Falana keeps saying that we have the laws to make Nigeria work, that the laws are there, but that we are not operating them.
The law. I believe to a large extent, I believe that there are things wrong with the law, but I also believe that if we actually implement the law properly, we could push it to where we want it to get to.
Of course, there are others who believe that the problems with the law, what they call structural problems with the law, are so fundamental that, like somebody said during your community, whatever. So fundamental
that the foundation is useless, and that anything you build on it will collapse.
And I'm asking whether those fundamental problems with the law are responsible for the monumental corruption, because corruption and corrupt practices are moral choices. So does a structural problem with constitution make a manager corrupt to steal all the money there?
So for example, all the agitations to break Nigeria, to balkanize Nigeria, one of the things I challenge people with is that when you finish the balkanization anyway, who will be the political leaders of these smaller balkanized Nigerias? Wouldn't it be the same morally bereft people? So what stops? Because we are all assuming that if you break Nigeria into little pieces, then suddenly corruption will end. How? Is it by breaking Nigeria?
And nepotism will
and
end.
nepotism will
It will
end.
not
It
end.
will not end now, because
it will just be carried to a
to
smaller.
in fact, you will even make somebody a teen god in a very small place, and that person will even reign supreme.
You see, me, I tell people, I said, look, I am a witness to state creations in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And what happened to people who used to be one state? First of all, they were one region. Then later, they were one state. And when a new state was created, they were treated like they came from another planet.
Exactly.
So, what you are saying is that it is something wrong in the mind of the Nigerian.
That's my point.
It's a thinking problem.
It's a thinking problem.
I use in church this Japanese saying, Toyota advert, good thinking, good product.
Exactly.
So, Nigerians are thinking wrongly in large measure, and that's why we have a wrong product.
I mean, okay, let's take another issue that people talk about a lot. They say, okay, we don't, this ancient antipathies, this resentment.
Yes.
You say, these people's grandfather did this to me, that person. So why do you go to London now? What did their grandfathers do to you?
Yes.
Have you ever
Their
considered?
grandfathers enslaved you.
Their grandfathers enslaved you, but you go there. Why do you go to America? Their grandfathers enslaved you. So if it is by this type of historical antipathies, we should not be socializing with people from the UK, from Europe, and from America. Which now leads me to something that I have been concerned about. And I'll try to also answer the question you asked. So Nigeria, in leadership, we talk about something we call the great man theory. That at the end of the day, you said it right, Father, that really it's also a crisis of leadership, of positional leadership. That Nigeria needs a great man that will sit at the top of Nigeria and set us straight.
Set the standard
and personify it.
Yes, and encapsulate in himself or herself
exactly
all the values we want to see in the Nigerian.
And it is possible, because if you look at your Dubai, your UAE, you look at your Singapore, it was some strong man. Even the United States have given the example of George Washington being handed the opportunity to be emperor of the United States, and he turned it down because he had seen where emperorship and feudal systems had taken Europe and the Great Britain to. And he says, look, we're a democracy.
Look at it. Italy, Garibaldi.
Yeah.
Bismarck for Germany.
Yes.
George Washington.
Yes.
And
Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln for the United States. Lee Kuan Yew for Singapore. Each one of these.
Even in Africa, Seretse Khama in
Botswana. And the present person in Rwanda.
Yes.
So, in each place, okay, somebody has died now in Tanzania, Magufuli or something, and they are all crying because they saw a leader, a father of a nation in him.
Yeah.
So, Nigeria has not been lucky to have. I mean, Western region recognized Awolowo, and they saw a father of the region in there. But unfortunately, the rest of the country, north and east, did not seem to recognize him as father of nation.
Exactly.
So Nigeria has not
produced.
We are like orphans.
Yes.
That have not.
Well fathered. There's no father.
Yes.
That's been one of our problems. So this is one of the things that are causing our problems. So we are like fatherless children. Yes. And that's a problem.
Fatherless children. So, and the children don't even recognize that they are related.
Exactly. Because you need the father to bring you together and say, all of you are my children.
Yes, to continue to assure them that, look, you are my children. Can't you see he's your brother? Why are you talking to him like that? When you talk to him like that, you make me feel sad.
That's it. And then, I also think, like you said, our enemies are legion. So, I don't want to pay too much attention, put too much focus on this. But I know that as people are trying to use the light of God to transform society, we should not rule out the fact
the work of the evil one.
The evil one is at
who
work.
Has a lot of agents in our midst.
A lot of agents. And I tell people, without sounding so like as if it's diabolical, but this is reality, that there are agents of light and there are agents of darkness.
Sure.
And many Nigerians, unfortunately, are under the spell of the agents of darkness, and sometimes they don't even know. An example I give is in democratic practice and participation, where people become so cynical, and sometimes some of us say these things, and I tell people, be careful, because there are certain things that you say that become
It has power.
It has power. So people start to say, for example, our votes don't count. I say, but the problem with that statement, and here's what happened, Father.
Is that how is it going to count?
How is it ever going to count when everybody says it doesn't count? It's so badly that my daughter said to me that, Daddy, if everybody says their votes don't count, so when I'm 18, why should I get a voter's card? And I said to her, spot on, that this is why I respond to people and say, get behind me, Satan. Because those words, as as fashionable as they sound, are very deep, because you are sowing seeds in young people to say to them, if your votes don't count, then don't bother. So again, I also think that there is a lot that is at work that is beyond what we see, and we have to be careful.
No, Nigeria is primed, or was always primed, to be a great nation. And it is not everybody who will be happy.
Exactly.
That this country is so blessed with human resources, so blessed with natural resources. Why should it be blessed with good governance and good leadership? So it means, and we should know.
Exactly.
We should know that as we are primed for greatness,
there will be plenty of
attacks from left and right.
And
then we should do what we need to do to forestall all the attacks of the enemy.
Because look, at the end of the day, Father, everywhere we go, there is so much potential. You know, you go out to places, you see what people are producing, you see the ingenuity of Nigerians, how we've taken every drink, every local drink, whether it's Zobo, Kunu, all of these things.
We have made them into...
We are packaging them. And I was at an event and I said, look at all of these. And I say, so why do we still, another problem, why do we still focus so much on government? We need to de-government, D-E. We need to
reduce the impact of government.
So all of us, this is our rent-seeking economy. These are part of the other problems. So, because you asked, there are many things that are wrong. This emphasis on government contract, government job, government patronage, it's part of the problem. Whereas there are 200 and something million people that can sustain each other. I am a teacher.
Except that, I agree with you to an extent, except that, you see, you need government permit for this. You need government license for this. You need government people will come and inspect this. And so on. So if government agents are corrupt, for example, problem for you to make progress.
But Father, in spite of that, the foreign investors come here and they survive, meaning that they cope and they flourish.
I hope you know that many of those foreign investors, they give a lot of bribe. I mean, they play ball.
Sure,
play ball.
But you know that now, with all these legislations in Europe and America, they can't play ball any longer.
They are very tough. Still managing to play ball.
But they are very tough now. There are lots of regulations in Europe and America that really insist. You know, in the past, up until 1980 something or the early 90s, there were no laws in Europe and America about this. So whatever you did in Nigeria or in Africa,
if they don't catch you,
go ahead. Now the rules have changed. I mean, I can't remember the exact name. There's an act that was passed in the European Parliament and in America to really put pressure on them in this area. So there's hope.
There's hope. As we round up this segment, it is to say we are Christians. We celebrate during Lent the suffering, the passion and death of Jesus that redeemed the world. We celebrate at Easter the victory of good over evil, the victory of love over hate, the victory of light over darkness. In view of this victory of the power or the forces of good over the forces of darkness, what do you have to say as a Christian about our hope for Nigeria?
I think, like our scriptures have taught us, the covenant has been written into the hearts and minds of men. So we have everything that we need to transform Nigeria. That as Christians, we have that love, that sacrificial love. We have all the talents and all the gifts of the Holy Spirit. We just need to put it into action.
After all, the Lord said, you are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hidden. So Christians, go ahead, transform your country, achieve the potential that the Lord has planted in your society to the glory of God. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.